vulnerabilities versus exploit. So it's a little bit of just some terminology stuff. I know these security terms can get very confusing, and to make it worse, they're often used incorrectly in news and articles. I thought it would be helpful to explain the differences between these three basic terms. Then understanding some of this basic security terminology will kind of help you as you try to make sense of the information that you see on the TV or in the newspaper about security issues. A vulnerability is a flaw in a piece of hardware or software. An exploit is a way to take advantage of a vulnerability. An attack is when someone uses an exploit to gain access to a system or information. Okay, well that still is pretty vague and kind of techy. Probably still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you. So I'm going to use an analogy of a house to help us explain these terms. We all understand that at our home, we want to keep bad guys out of our home. We don't want somebody breaking in and stealing our new flat screen TV or some of the other, jewelry or things like that in your home. One of your first lines of defense in a home is your door, and you usually have a lock on the door. A vulnerability is like not having a lock on your back door. Or maybe you have a lock, but it's a really crappy one that anybody can get through. Obviously, if your back door is unlocked, you're at risk for something bad to happen. It's much easier for somebody to gain uninvited access to your home if your door's not locked. You are vulnerable, hence why the term vulnerability comes in. Now, however, if nobody ever tries to come in your back door, then nothing bad has really happened yet. If we break it down to just a one simple word thing, the vulnerability is kind of the what. It's the what is wrong, it's the theory around it. If we take our next step now and go talk about an exploit's more of the how things happen. An exploit is like somebody going down the street checking to see if somebody's back door is unlocked. Often exploits can have multiple variations. So maybe I check to see if your back door is unlocked, but I also might check to see, well, if you have a certain type of lock, well, maybe it's real easy to pick. Another exploit might be if your door has glass in it, well, maybe I can just break the glass and reach in and unlock the door. If I'm really bold, well, maybe I can just kick the door in. Those would all be some examples of different types of exploits against that door that's there to keep out the bad guys. Now they know that the door is open and they have a way in. Maybe they just take note of it and come back another day, or they could open the door and go inside. That's where it switches from a theory into action. An attack is like someone actually opening the door and going in. So now they're inside and they're looking around. It doesn't always mean that they're going to steal something or break something. Often the initial attack is just about gathering information or leaving behind a way to spy on you. Many studies show that often attackers are in your network for 3 to 6 months before any noticeable activity occurs. So if we kind of recap that, the vulnerability is the what. It's the what's wrong. The exploit is the how they're going to take advantage of the vulnerability. The attack is what changes it to a verb. That's the action. That's the actually doing something. Sometimes we might use other measures to reduce our risk of having an unlocked back door. You might have a tall fence with a locked gate. Maybe you have a pit bull in your backyard that makes uninvited guests less likely to step foot in your backyard. Or you could have an alarm system to notify you and call the police if someone enters your home. You could have a camera system to help identify the person and see how they gained access to your home. And these are all things we'll talk about another day, about just other layers you could maybe put in place to help protect your network, just like those things I mentioned there would protect your home. But the main thing I wanted to take away today is just understanding the subtle differences between these terms and how it helps when you're reading articles or seeing the news, just helping you understand a little better. A vulnerability without an exploit is not as dangerous as a vulnerability that's being actively exploited and being used to attack people.